Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, good morning, student.
Good
So,
morning.
before we start our lesson, I'd like to check your attendance. Is there is anyone absent today? No? Okay, everyone is attending to the class. Okay, so how are you today? Yeah, thank you for asking. So, today we will learn about narrative text. Before we start learning about narrative text, I would like to ask you something. So, do you know what instrument you're looking at right now? Yeah, correct. The first one is angklung. The second one, gamelan. And the last one, sasando. And today we learn based on this instrument. So, before I give you assignment about narrative text, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about narrative text. So, narrative text is the type of text that tells you a story or series of events to entertain, inform, to teach its reader. It usually involves characters, setting, a problem, and resolution. Narrative text can be fictional or based on real events. They are commonly found in stories, novels, fairy tales, legend, myths, fables, and personal experience. So, narrative text is you probably already seen narrative text. Whether you're reading something on internet, you reading when you're reading book, or when you tell your friend a story. So, what is the purpose of narrative text? The purpose of narrative text is to entertain readers, to tell a story, to share experience, and to teach moral values or lesson. The type of narrative text can be a fairy tale, legend, myth, fable, and short story. But there are more than this. So, before we go any further, I'll tell you the generic structure of narrative text. The generic structure of narrative text is the part of the story. The orientation is the introduction of the story. It gives reader important background information so they can understand the story clearly. So orientation is the early part of the story. It's used to introduce to the reader the character, the conflict, or the setting. So orientation usually introduces the character, setting, and situation. The purpose is to help reader know the beginning condition of the story. Next is complication. Complication is the conflict of the story. What's happened to the character? What's happened to the nature? What's happening to the village? Like that. So the complication is a conflict or problem that happened in the story. The purpose is to create tension, conflict, or challenge that present in the story. Okay, now the resolution. Resolution is the solution for the problem we discussed earlier. However, resolution is usually at the end of the story, and the story can be ended in three different ways. It can be happy ending, sad ending, or open ending. Open ending means the story will continue. It comes to reorientation. The reorientation is optional. It doesn't include in every story, but many stories have it. So the reorientation is basically uh, a message that the writer tells to the reader. It contains moral lesson, writer comment, or the final feeling or conclusion. Okay, now the language featured in the narrative text. So many writer who write narrative text usually use tense verb like when, so, help, action verb, and time connective, direct speech or dialogue, and descriptive language. Past tense used because we retell a story that happened in the past, or basically anything in the long time ago. For example, we use when saw help instead of see go help. Action verb is verb that describe the action taken by the character inside, such as run, hop, cry. Time connective is basically to the connection when the story start from the beginning to the end. It just then after that suddenly direct speech or dialogue is basically what the character or someone said in the story. Descriptive language used to describe any descriptive language is used to describe the character, the nature, the village, etc. Okay, before we continue, is there anybody you want to ask about narrative text? Okay, now I will give you one example of narrative text, and I want you to read this this narrative text, and then I want you to answer the question that I will give you later. So I'll give you 5 minutes to read, and if you can't see, you may come forward. Okay, time's up. Okay, now we're going to give you. Okay, now we're going to go to the question, and I want you to answer. Okay, so the first question is, where did Jaka live? Can anybody answer? Okay, you. Yeah, that's correct. Jaka lived in West Java, a peaceful village surrounded by bamboo forest. Okay, so the next question is, what did Jaka create in this story? Anybody want to answer? You? You don't want to? Okay. Okay, how about you? Okay, that's correct. Jaka created an instrument called angklung. Okay, that's correct. So the third question is, why the villagers sad? You know what? Okay. So yeah, it's correct because a long dry season struck the village. The crop failed and the villager became sad. Next question. How did the music help the village? Oh yeah. Unfortunately, the answer is because Jaka gathered the village and played the instrument with them. The music brought happiness and unity back to the village. Yeah. Sorry, that's the correct answer. So, what's the moral of story, or what can we learn from the story? Nobody know? Okay, I'll give you brief answer. Creativity came from anywhere. So Jaka was discovered that bamboo can make sound, and Jaka was inspired by that to create a music. So creativity can come from anyone or anywhere. Okay, give applause to everyone. Okay, I think the time is up, but before we end our lesson, I'd like to give you assignment. So the tomorrow assignment is to find and read one narrative story you can find. It can be anywhere. It can be from a book. It can be from internet. It can be a source map. And I want you to read the story carefully. I want to understand it, and then in the next meeting we will share the narrative text we learned. Okay, before we end our lesson, anybody want to ask? No? Okay. Okay. Thank you for everyone for listening. I hope you have a great day. So, okay, let's end it with hamdalah. Okay, see you. Okay, assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you next time.